USB port doesn't like, that USB port doesn't like the camera plug-in. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another evening of good nature. Thanksgiving week. I hope you're looking forward to a nice dinner or some time off maybe later this week, or certainly some time to relax. I got just a couple of things here before we get to our special guest who slid out of the way when the camera came on. It's just, God love you, Allison. She goes, we're just, yakking away. We're talking about boreal toads, which we will be bringing up again shortly. And she goes, oh, by the way, Pam, it's 8:01. I said, oh, the group is used to be starting late. So thank you for your patience. And thank you, Allison, for keeping me on track. I just had a couple little things of local interest before we go on to our main event here. One, it was in the email I got the other day from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. It's a press release. I'm going to share the screen here so you can read along. A very exciting development, just a few short hours from us here in northern Illinois. And I'm going to share. Where's the screen I want to share? I'm going to share my email here. This news release. This news release. Zoom. I have it open. There it is. Look at this. There was a cougar in Buffalo County, Wisconsin. The long story short is that there was a deer hunter, a bow hunter, who move this window away from the shared application. My screen sharing is stopped. All right, well, that didn't work. But the gist of the press release was that in Buffalo County, which is the county that's kind of in between, if you can picture western Wisconsin, it's north of La Crosse, but it would be south of Red Wing, Minnesota. So that stretch there south of the Twin Cities. Cougar must have crossed over into Wisconsin. I don't know, that the press release didn't say if it was going after the deer that the hunter had shot, but the hunter, fearing for his or her safety, killed the cougar. No charges were filed after the investigation occurred. But yeah, that's pretty close. That's within a few hours of here. In our talks at dinner tonight, Allison was saying that the cougar population is pretty robust, and we might be there are a lot of, especially young males, that are driven to disperse from their natal territory where they were born and start heading out. So keep your eyes open. Maybe one will head this way. The other just really quick local interesting I wanted to share. We'll do a little bit more on this next week, but I ate a hackberry the other day, and it was really good. I didn't eat a hackberry, and boy, just as we've been talking about all fall, the mass deer that we're experiencing is just incredible. There are fruits and nuts all over the place. And the hackberry trees, there's so many berries that the trees are loaded with them. Now, a hackberry it isn't a native species. It doesn't have a whole lot of flesh on the fruit. When you bite into it, it's kind of like biting through the coating on an M&M. There's like a thin, hard coating on the outside, and then there's just a tiny little bit of flesh, and then there is a pretty large pit or seed in the middle. I found a recipe for how to prepare hackberries, so I'm going to try to do that, and we will discuss that more next week. But I was really encouraged, even though there wasn't a lot of flesh on the fruit itself. I picked several while I was walking the dogs the other day. There's a few hackberries over in Geneva where the fruit is all right at human grazing level. So I helped myself, and yeah, they were actually really tasty. So more on that next week. And then third, I don't know, we address this fruit almost every year just because I think they're so cool. It is time for Osage oranges, also known as hedge apples. This is a tree that was brought to this area, and um, yes, you're right, Diane. Hackberry is native to Illinois, but Osage orange is not native to this part of Illinois. It was planted widely as a hedgerow plant. Especially if it's trimmed back, it knits together tightly. I've got some slides I'll show you next week of the pictures I took, but I wanted to mention it today in case anybody, any of you are like me and you love the smell of these fruits. The seeds are edible, but it's kind of a lot of work for what you get. The flesh itself, there's like a sticky sap in here that you have to get through. Your knife gets all gummy, and then the seeds themselves are not much bigger than the kernels of sunflowers, and they don't have a lot of flavor. I suppose you could roast them. Maybe that would add to the flavor. But if you like the smell of them, so I put dishes of these in my office and also at home, just because it's just a pleasant flavor now, or pleasant aroma. I should say there's a lot of folklore out there that they repel rodents, that they repel spiders. Why would anybody want to do that? But they supposedly the smells, the odors that are coming off of the fruit can keep different sorts of pests away. I don't know if that's true. Like I said, I picked these up the other day and I have them in a bowl at my house, and the spiders have continued to be right where they always are. So I just think they're cool. The reason I brought them up tonight, we will do a bigger spiel on these next week, but I wanted to bring them up tonight in case you are local and you do want to collect some. They're not native, so there's no restrictions on picking them up. There is a huge quantity because, again, it's a mast year. There's a huge quantity in the trees off of Peck Road, just south of the community garden plots in Geneva. So it would be south of Route 38 and north of Kesslinger on the west side of Peck Road. What I did was I parked at the parking lot for the Geneva community garden plots, and then just walked as maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred yards down the trail. I took a little bag with me. Met a really cool yellow lab along the way named Kobe. Got a little Kobe schmutz on me because she's a kisser. So people don't always leash their dogs back there. It's not a very well traveled path at this time of year. Anyway, it's you want to get these before we have a really hard freeze, because then they get mushy and they don't last long. I think these should be around for a while. I might try to dry some. You can slice them and put them in your oven and preserve them that way. I did let some sit in my office over the course of a year, and they do shrink down and they lose their aroma over time. But anyway, just wanted to mention this in case you, like me, are kind of an Osage orange freak. All right, so with that, Allison, I said we'd do a little intro, but you really are the main attraction. Why don't you come over here? Plenty of room for both of us. Folks, a lot of you, if you've been tuning in regularly, you remember Allison. Switch up a little bit closer. I'm going to scooch into the background here. But Allison is a wildlife biologist, and she's here visiting family. She's in from Walden, Colorado, which is a different town from where she was when she last visited with us, correct?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to? I'm gonna make this.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I did get a new job. I still work in the same kind of district or forest, but and with a little bit more responsibility and getting to teach people, different management concepts. And really get to be involved with more governmental stuff. So
All right, more government.
yeah, so it's been fun. It's been new, but I'm really happy where I'm at. So
Yeah.
get to explore a different place. And what I really like to do is come back and visiting different places and moving to different places. You get appreciation for where you've come from, but then also where you are and where you're going. So
Mhm.
Pam's been gracious enough for letting me talk about a little
Oh.
bit of different places. And again,
We always look forward, Allison, because Illinois is pretty cool, but if we can hear about what's going on around the country.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of botched the screen share before. I'm going to try it again
Okay.
because Allison has given us some wonderful views of what her world is like out there in Colorado. So, all right, I'm going to share the screen. Oh, so now it shows up. This was the press release I was trying to show you earlier about the cougar that was killed in Buffalo County. But I'm actually going to minimize this and minimize that, minimize this, and go to this. And then we're just going to go back to. So this is about where we were when Allison said, "Damn, it's after 8." We were going through these slides. So, Allison, what are we looking at here?
All right, so let's play a little game here. Can you spot my coworker?
Do, 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 do. Now, if I use this to scooch over,
Yeah, give him a little hint there.
we're getting warmer. We're getting warmer. It's not
No.
this.
No.
And it's not that, but right in here. I tried to zoom in. This doesn't have a great zoom on it, but you can kind of see here, there's a solid lump. And what were you guys doing that day?
So one of my jobs is to, protect different habitats for different species, especially for threatened and endangered species. One of the species that we protect habitat for is Canada lynx. And so, yeah, it is pretty cool. But here we are looking at different management strategies for timber sale, because the Forest Service really is a multi-use land management agency. So we do a lot of recreation, we do a lot of habitat management, and we also do commercial timber sales. And so here we're looking at an area where it's like, hey, where can we harvest and where we can't because of certain law, regulations, and policy that we've promised Fish and Wildlife and also the American public that we are, we promise to protect certain wildlife and certain habitats for wildlife. So here, where I was standing was in an area where there was a lot of dead standing timber that we wanted to get out of the forest because we were hit in the early 2000s with the pine beetle epidemic, which killed
pine beetles.
Yeah. And they're actually a native species. So pine beetles are a native species to North America. It's just that with climate change and the less harsher winters, they just exploded. And so they took off and really killed a lot of trees. And we want to manage, take down those or salvage those trees so that we can regenerate the forest, because lodgepole pine are actually dependent on open spaces. So in the past, we would have fires come through and open up those spaces to allow sunlight to penetrate the canopy, and with the sunlight, but also the seeds, some of the lodgepole pine seeds are actually serotinous.
Which means what?
So serotinous means that they open during a fire.
Ah,
so they open up when there's
serotinous.
Yeah, serotinous.
Okay.
So it means that the cone needs heat to open up.
Okay.
And to germinate. So sunlight sometimes does that too, but they need some fire on the ground too.
Jack pine, they're like that too, up in Wisconsin.
I think, yeah, like a lot of ecosystems have developed with fire, like low intensity fires, because they were frequent. With a lot of management, it's starting, I think, a little bit before World War II, and especially during World War II, a lot of propaganda came out where it was like, no, say no to wildfires. There's a ton of suppression. So any fire on the ground was
Only you
yes.
can prevent
Yeah.
forest fires.
Yeah, there was a huge ban on forest fires. Even if they were started naturally, they would just get knocked out. And then that changed the forest. And so now we're just kind of like, we're dealing with, it's a social issue, environmental issue, and a climate issue. So we're just trying to balance like, what can we do to do the land justice kind of thing. So here in this photo, where my coworker is standing, where you can't really see her, is
Right there.
definitely thick. That spruce fir, thick mixed lodgepole. That's what I would consider lynx habitat. They need that nice forest cover. It's actually pretty healthy back there. There's a few standing dead trees, but having some dead trees are great because of snags. A lot of birds use cavities and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, we work a lot with different programs like timber, botany, wildlife recreation, so we can make the best management decisions.
Now, what were you looking for on this? Were you looking for tracks or scat?
Just the
or
habitat.
Just
Yeah.
sizing up the
Yeah,
habitat.
just
Is
sizing.
it suitable for
Mhm.
lynx?
Yeah.
Okay. And you decided it is?
Yeah. Based
Okay.
on the parameters and the thickness, and yeah, just by looking at it, you're just like, yeah. Sometimes we go in with cover boards where these 6 foot screens that have like checkerboards,
Mhm.
and you do kind of figure out like what percentage of the board is being covered by vegetation.
Okay.
And we have a survey for that. I had a crew this summer doing that, and just based on formulations, you figure out the density.
Okay.
Yeah, but here it's yeah. If you keep going back, you disappear, and you're like, yeah, that's pretty thick. Yeah.
Super cool. Now, Canada lynx, would they be similar to our bobcats, where they might be in an area during the breeding season, but then other than that, they're roaming around a lot? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
cool. Um, and I said, yeah, we can advance these if I could even move
Oh no, go for it.
over. Let's go to this.
So another thing that we did this summer, we went out into the wilderness area. We have, at least around where I work, we have about 3 wilderness areas. And this one is the Mount Circle Wilderness Area, which is closest to my district. And we went out, my crew and I went and did a boreal toad survey in a known boreal toad site. And that's why we got on a tangent. And
that's when we lost track of time.
Yeah.
Now, so did you say circle?
Zirkle.
Zirkle with a Z.
Yeah.
And again, your district, Allison, you said you're about an hour from Steamboat?
Yes. An
Okay.
hour northeast of Steamboat, and then we are an hour southwest of Laramie, Wyoming.
Okay.
So
So kind of northwest Colorado, or north
yeah, like north central. Yeah.
north central
Yep.
Colorado.
Yeah. And so again, this is another part of our trip, and something that we were talking about is what a lot of people don't realize is that like the Forest Service and National Park is different. Like we are managed differently. We're actually in 2 different departments. The National Park System is part of the Department of Interior, and then the National Forest System is part of agriculture. And again, we are more like a multi-use. We do have an agriculture aspect, which is timber, but we do have recreation and also conservation aspect as well. The National Park System is more preservation, which they preserve landmarks for future generations, and they don't do timber sales. It's very like hands-off management. They do monitor. Some places are starting to do a little bit of management with, especially out in Sequoia Kings Canyon, the Mariposa Grove. They are like raking away like the leaf litter away from those giant sequoias to preserve that landmark, those sequoia groves.
But so really, though, the Park Service has been more focused on access and education and but as far as restoration and things like that, that's sort of new to them. that be?
I mean, they do some restoration, but it's mostly, yeah, it's for the public. It's preserving landmarks for future generations to come.
And the Forest Service, like you said, is in USDA, and
Mhm.
that is a commodities sort of approach to these open
Mhm.
spaces, and the timber, the land is looked at, the logs are looked at as timber,
Mhm.
and how can we monetize or
Manage.
manage?
Yeah, and you know, we do protect things too. There are like these wilderness areas. We cannot touch these wilderness areas. It's a very these are the preservations. It's very hands off, let nature do its thing kind of thing because of the Wilderness Act.
Well, that was, yeah, that was something that really caught my ear when you said that when you're up here and you know maybe you do have to maintain a trail, but it's a wilderness area.
Yes. So we still have recreation in these wilderness areas to share with, you know, the public, and you guys are welcome to go into these wilderness areas, and lots of cool trails. I mean, the circles is where the CDT, the Continental Divide Trail, goes through, and there's just some, I don't know, there's just some really cool areas that like. And I showed this to my friend, and she's like, "Oh, is this in Glacier National Park?" I'm like, "No, actually, it's in Colorado."
This is in Colorado. Well, you said
Yeah.
this comes very close to Rocky Mountain.
So the
Right.
Circles is on the other side of the
Oh.
valley. So this is not near
But
Rocky
your
Mountain.
district is near.
Yes.
Okay, never
Yeah.
mind. All right, so this will be farther west.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is north of Steamboat.
And what's the elevation here?
So at this picture, it's I think 11,000 in elevation.
Oh,
Yeah.
only 11.
Yeah, only 11. Yeah, I think I have another picture at like 12.
But there's toads here.
So this is just a river that we were going by, and I thought it was really pretty.
Yeah. As you went to look for toads.
Yes, as hiking to our camping spot. Yeah.
Gotcha.
'Cause it took us a day to get to our camping spot, and then it took another few hours to get to our site.
So camping is part of your job.
Yeah, in some aspects, yeah, especially in the wilderness
Your
area.
commute.
Yeah.
So is this on foot then?
Yes.
You're
We're all on
strictly
foot. We're all
hiking.
hoofing it.
How many miles in were you at? I mean,
Oh
you
gosh. Our first camping spot was 7 miles in. I think it's a 12-mile trip to the site.
wow.
But you know, we were carrying like 50 pounds on our backs
Yeah.
because it's all camping gear and it's a few day trip. So yeah.
Wow. And this was the toad trip.
Yep.
I'm gonna just switch over quickly here. This is another thing I got sidetracked on. So none of these really turned out to be big, nice close-ups, but looking at the screen here, you get the sense, you know, the boreal toad is from outward appearances, it's pretty darn similar to
Mhm.
our good old American toads that we have here in Northern Illinois. But you were surveying for a specific issue, right? With these guys.
Yeah, so we do so part of our equipment that we hiked up there, we did have chytrid fungi swabs. So we would swab the toads that we caught, and we would put them in these vials, the swabs, and then we send them off to I think it's the state that has the that processes
A lab.
them. Yep.
And chytrid fungus is a concern. Would you say it's an increasing concern, or is it just something
It's
that
something
you?
that we monitor. I mean, it's been in the system for a while, and so far, at least the populations that we have on our forest have stabilized.
Okay.
So you know, they're producing enough toadlets to kind of offset the
Toadlets.
yeah, offset the negative impacts. I mean, they're still having a negative impact, but it seems like everything's kind of stabilizing, so that um we're not too concerned, but that's why we keep monitoring these spots, so that if we do see a decrease, then it's kind of raises alarm flags that we need to do something.
Keep an eye to see. Oh, okay. Well, and you said too something that I thought was interesting, that so chytrid, we're talking chytrid fungus, CHYTRID,
Mhm.
chytrid fungus, which is the abbreviated name of the really long
Yeah.
species name of the fungus, but it's something I was surprised to learn from Allison that yeah, I've heard that there's been chytrid fungus in our amphibian populations for you know ages. You know, it's always been
Decades.
there, but there are different strains,
Mhm.
did you say? Different strains of the fungus, and some are introduced, and you know where that goes. That can really mess up a pop. So you're kind of
Mhm.
what being on the alert
Yes.
for any increases or new strains of
Yeah.
chytrid. Uh, yeah, I was talking with the folks who do Kane County Connects, which is where the Good Natured column that I write runs. And I had written about a mushroom a few weeks ago, and a reader had written into the editors saying, "Oh, my dog died from eating
Oh.
a mushroom,"
Mhm.
and like, well, there's lots of different kinds of
Yes.
mushrooms.
Yeah.
And it was I made the comment to the editors that it seems like, you know, fungus is going to win in the end, because there's the chytrid fungus that's affecting our amphibians, and there's snake fungal disease that they're really watching, especially with our state endangered Massasauga rattlesnakes. They're
Mhm.
heavily impacted by snake fungal disease. And then we've got white nose syndrome, which is a fungus that's affecting our bats.
Yep.
And it's like, and yeah, the editor was properly horrified by all of that. But it just seems like, yeah, there's a lot of things. And then the fact that some of these are now, you know, there's introduced and alien species that you're having to
Yeah.
be wary of. But anyway, let's go back to your pretty pictures before we go down some very deep, dark road, Allison. What are we looking at here?
So this was one of our camping spots, well, near it, because in the wilderness, you don't want to be camping right on water,
Mhm.
just so that you don't contaminate water. So we kind of camped way up on like a little ridge, but came down here and just enjoyed the views because, you know, we're out in the wilderness. These places are very scenic. Like you don't run into a lot of people at all, and if you're looking for solitude, wilderness areas and in the Forest Service lands are the place to go.
Well, tell us more about the Wilderness Act. I've heard of it,
Yeah.
but like so Allison was saying how when they go up and maybe they have to do some trail maintenance. There's no power equipment.
Yes, so
Um,
you can't have any electrical equipment or diesel power equipment. You can't use chainsaws, so it's all cross saws. There are some exceptions, like when wildfires go through, but it has to go through like the top people to get
oh, like
approved.
approved,
Yeah, so it's like
and that would be because you have to work quickly to
yes,
stay in advance of the fire.
exactly. Yeah, but no electric or no motorized equipment or vehicles. Um, like no e-bikes. That's
Oh,
yep,
that's
no,
nice.
no e-bikes.
Do they, right, would a regular, like a mountain bike be allowed? Or,
It depends on that trail, but I
okay.
don't think so. I think it's mostly just
I know
foot
around
it.
here, the land managers are looking askew at, you know, off-road bicycling, just
Mhm.
because of the impact to the trails.
Yeah, but
And I would
you
think,
can pack horses, you can pack llamas,
oh,
alpacas. There is some I think there's some language in there that if you do pack livestock, that you have to have like wheat free hay.
oh, grain that they're food that they've
Yeah.
eaten, so they're not, oh,
So
yeah.
you don't introduce more invasive species. Um, yeah, there's a bunch of regulations that,
Boy, who's in charge of enforcing that?
well, I know in some places they have wilderness rangers.
Oh,
I know in one of our districts, our sister districts down in Liampo, which is south of Steamboat, they have a bunch of backcountry rangers that, you know, check in on campers and
then they like collect the droppings and
no,
look
no,
at
no,
them
no,
and
no. They just check if your hay has like a tag, a certification tag.
there we
Yeah.
go.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider, because it sounds like you know you're packing all your gear in here, would you ever have like a, you know, llama?
Oh, I wish.
Yeah.
It would make it so much easier, but we don't, yeah, we don't have that
Uh,
luxury. Yeah.
oh well.
Yeah.
So this is was this summer that you
Yes.
were in this
Yeah, this
area?
was August. So, and a lot of these trails, they were very melted out, but there was still some snow in some areas. This year was a really heavy snow year, so it didn't melt out until like mid-July.
Mid-July?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So at this point,
So this is like 12,000
12,000 feet.
elevation. Yeah.
Okay. Looks like we got some wildflowers here.
Yep. Wildflowers. There's tons of bees and pollinators, which was awesome to see. And at night there was a ton of bats, and it was
Nice.
awesome. There's a little waterfall there.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. This is called Slide Lake.
Slide?
Slide. Yep.
Slide
Yeah.
sound. Oh, look at this.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
wolf.
It's my dog Nova. She's my hiking companion, and yes, dogs are allowed on a. So another difference between National Park Service and Forest Service: dogs are allowed on national forest lands, and
Oh,
you know, some areas, especially if they're not heavily traveled, you can have your dog off leash. We just ask that, you know, you have your leash on you, and that they are good with recall too, because we do have a lot of moose, which moose are not, they don't like dogs. They view them as wolves and as predators, so they will.
go after them,
Yeah,
or like
yep.
a mama moose would protect her.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, some of you folks might remember, might know that back in 2008, my husband and I were in Glacier National Park, and we found a dog our very first day there. And we spent the next maybe 3 days trying to find her owner. And when it became clear that she had been dropped off in the middle of nowhere, we adopted her and took her to the vet. But we spent our whole vacation trying to find places, around the glacier area where we could go, because having a dog there really does limit.
Yep.
You know, they're allowed in the common areas, near the visitor centers and along the roads, but you can't take the dogs on the trails. So we had to get kind of creative with our explorations there. Everybody was real nice. In fact, the rangers all had dog treats every time we ran into one of them on our walks on the road. They were all very nice. But so that's good to know.
Yeah. And there are some national parks that are dog friendly too. I think Cuyahoga, because I think Cuyahoga was a national recreation area before it became a national park.
Okay.
And so they still have some dog friendly trails, and Great Sand Dunes down in Colorado is dog friendly in the sand dune area. And
okay.
I've been there with my dog plenty of times. It's one of my favorite national parks. Maybe because it is a little dog friendly for my dog, but
yeah.
no,
Now, was this on your work trip, or was
no, this is a
did she
different
stay
area.
home when you
Yeah,
were
when I
working?
did the work trip, I was tempted to bring her along with me, but I decided, since it was my first time doing that trip, that I wanted to kind of scout it first before bringing her with me. So I had a friend of mine dog sit.
Babysit. Yeah. Okay.
But this is another place in the wilderness. Different. This probably is on the northern side of the wilderness area. This is Lake Catherine, which is a very beautiful lake. That one takes maybe about an hour and a half to get to, but you have a creek crossing to do, so it's pretty adventurous too. But yeah.
Now, Wilderness Act and wilderness areas, are there wilderness areas within national parks too?
Yes.
Or, okay, so that's something that supersedes any governmental divisions.
It's encompassing of
Okay.
different agencies, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's designated wilderness area, it's covered by the Wilderness Act.
Okay. And what elevation are we looking at here?
This is also, I think, around 11,000.
Okay. And where you live at, how high are you? Like, your body must be pretty acclimated to these altitudes,
It is now.
at this point.
It is now. Let's see, Walden is at like 8,100
Okay.
in elevation, and where I live is about 9,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's up there.
Yeah.
I think our highest point is like 800 around here. Now I thought this was a really cool picture, and I did not really fully grasp the whole thing at first, and then I kind of adjusted my glasses. Can you see? So Allison, tell us the story here.
So I just gotten done with the survey. So I have
is a lot of, how much of your day-to-day in the summertime is there, are you surveying
So we try to get out into the field every day in the summertime, starting like mid-May all the way until September, or until the snow starts flying, so we can't get into roads.
Cool.
So we try our best to be out in the woods as much as possible. So I had a crew of 3, and so I had to do something different from my crew. So I had them drop me off here, and I just walked the road to get to. I was surveying or field checking a nest, a historic nest for goshawks, and that's one of our
For
species.
goshawks.
Yeah, northern.
Cool.
Well, now it's the American goshawk, so they just recently changed
So
it.
it's not northern.
No, it's not northern goshawks anymore. They decided to split between American goshawk and northern goshawk. I believe in Europe it's still the northern goshawk, but
Okay.
ours is the American goshawk now. Yeah, I think they changed that like either a month or a few weeks ago. So I got an email about
Just in.
Yeah.
So you went on and you're surveying in this sense. So before you were looking, you were just sizing up territory. Is it suitable for lynx?
Mhm.
Were you doing a similar thing on this
So
journey?
kind of, yeah. So during the summertime, our biggest survey period is northern goshawks, which is from May until the first week of August. That's when they're most active, and we either go out and monitor historic nest sites, seeing if they're still there or if they're active, especially in areas that we haven't been to for a while. We like to check to see if there's still a nest there, or if the habitat is just completely destroyed by the mountain pine beetle because of all the deadfall. And then we also do point counts in areas that they want to do some management, like timber salvage. And we grid that area with points like every 250 meters apart.
Okay.
And we do call points. And if we get a response, we try to hone in and try to find their nest.
So by call, are you were playing a recording?
Yes.
Okay.
We do have a recording because it's loud and more accurate than somebody trying to mimic. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Are goshawks are they migratory there, or are they year round?
so it's a mix of both.
Okay.
So like the young will disperse, but the parents will kind of stick around the area. Just they won't migrate too far, but it's mostly the young that really disperse. A lot of studies have shown, especially like in Arizona, that the young do disperse into like the next forest after that. So, but they usually stick around all year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And goshawks, I always pictured goshawks as like giant Cooper's hawks.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Are they
so
similar, or
yes.
they're-
So there's 3 different species that are very similar. So you have the sharp shin, or they're like, you know,
minis?
yep, and then the next one up is Cooper's, and then the next up is the
Is the
goshawk.
goshawk.
Yeah.
So they're all like so is the goshawk then feeding on birds too?
Mhm.
Or
Yep, they're an accipiter.
and did you find what you were hoping to find?
So I did find a nest. It was in good condition, but nobody was home.
Okay.
And the thing is with goshawks, they don't nest every year. So they do take break years. So
Okay. Even I'm assuming they're a bonded
Yeah,
pair,
yeah.
and then but then there's some years they're just like, eh.
yeah, exactly. Or, you know, what I've been finding out too, just talking to different biologists too, is, females will come into a territory and kill the other female and take it to the territory. So, you know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but I had just finished up and I was waiting to get picked up, and then I see this big blob come out of the forest onto the road, and I'm like, oh, that's a
Look at
moose.
that.
And it just stays there for like 10 minutes. So I'm just like,
So now
okay.
this was not rush hour.
No, it's not rush hour. But then I, see a car come. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna hit this thing. But luckily they saw the moose, and the moose just stood there for another like 3-5 minutes, just whatever.
Just kind of, I'm big and I'm gonna move when
Pretty
I
much.
feel like it.
Yeah, pretty much. And then finally it decided, okay, well, I guess I should move. And then it started going into the willows down below there, and I was like, oh, it's coming towards me. So that's why I kind of moved out to the side, because you don't want to deal with moose. They're kind of
Yeah,
they're
but
finicky.
angry mammals, are they?
They can
Or
be pretty angry. Yeah, I'm much more afraid of encountering a moose than a bear in the woods.
really?
Yeah.
That's wow, because that's kind of contrary to what most people would think. A
Yeah.
bear has claws and canine teeth, and goes rawr,
Yeah, most
and
of
a
the time,
moose
yeah.
is bullwinkle.
Oh,
But do they charge
oh
or?
yeah, yeah. Moose can charge, and I think this year they've trampled a lot of people, like in Colorado alone. So yeah,
Really? Wow.
yeah,
So, this like I don't know what distance this was, a quarter mile away. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, quarter mile or a little less than that. Yeah.
But so it could just, so when it left, then it went down
Yep.
off of the
Off the highway.
highway down
Yep,
here.
into those willows down there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this, I don't see antlers. I
So
don't know. Did you see antlers?
it
Or
did. So
it
I
did
had
have
my
antlers?
binoculars on me, and it did have like little tiny stubs because this was in like May. So
Okay.
they're just starting to grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
When you encounter, I mean, so this was just a single male or bull.
Mhm.
Are they called bull moose? I
Yes,
know
they're
Teddy
bull.
Roosevelt was a bull moose.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but a female,
A female in
a
her.
cow with her young,
Oh yeah, she can
she's
get
gonna be just
very
okay.
defensive. And,
When do they have their, is it calves? Is
yeah,
that what they're called?
calves.
When do they?
So I'd say May. I've
Okay.
seen like freshly dropped calves before.
Are they like fawns where they just kind of leave them, or does the
Baby
baby get up right away
the
and
baby can walk, almost right away.
on
Yeah,
its 6 foot legs?
yeah, they're very fun. They're on stilts, but
Wow.
yeah, they're pretty cool. But they are to be respected and not to be approached.
So and I remember when you told me that you were moving to Walden, you said it was the moose capital of Colorado.
Moose viewing capital.
Moose viewing
Yes,
capital.
so there are a lot of moose in this area. Like at first, when I was living in Wyoming and I would come through Walden, I'm like, I never seen a moose in Walden. But then living there, I've seen more moose there in my entire life. So in this one year, and actually it's been less than a year. So yeah, there's a lot of moose in that area. And there was one time my crew and I were driving out, and we have a lot of rangeland out there, so a lot of fences and everything like that. And what I thought was a horse in the distance, because it was just kind of like right up next to the fence, head over the fence, just kind of looking at the car. I'm like, oh, look at that really big horse. And then you come by and like, that's not a horse.
That's not a horse.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, if you've got a lot of moose, are there a lot of things that eat moose there? Or it's like,
So-
what would those animals be?
So we do have cougars.
Uh-huh.
We do have black bears. Black bears can go after the calves and the
Okay.
sick. Same thing with mountain lions. We do have some murmurings of, we do have evidence of wolves in
Yeah.
Colorado that have come down from Yellowstone. It's a really big issue in that area because it is a ranching community. So
So they look askance at the wolves.
they're not fans of them, but yeah.
Can I can see a cougar, especially like if they drop down, or they just seem very capable as predators. When we look at wolf predation of a moose, is it a lot of animals working together as a pack to bring the animal down?
Yeah, it does take a lot to take down a moose because they are huge. I mean, I didn't realize how big moose were until I actually saw one in person.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that is.
Well, you know what? This was years ago when I was in a Cabela's, out before we had Cabela's around here. I was out in, I think it was Mitchell, South Dakota, which is, I don't know if it's one of like the flagship Cabela's, and they had a display of taxidermied moose from the different latitudes, and they start out big, but then the farther north you go, they get gianter and gianter.
Yeah.
I was shocked too at what the shoulder measurement that's up there. It's way above your head.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's wild. Now, so the ranchers aren't big fans of having wolves around. How do the ranchers, is there any diseases or anything that moose are responsible for carrying? I know,
So
like,
they're not too worried about the moose with diseases, but with like elk and stuff.
oh,
We do have some bison ranchers out there, but they're very regulated because of brucellosis. Elk also carry brucellosis. So, but we have such small populations and they really don't really interact with the cows down there. So
okay,
it's not really a big deal. However, there's a huge like up in Jackson where there's the elk refuge and stuff. They
okay.
have a huge prevalence of brucellosis because they do feed the elk on the elk refuge with like the hay bales and stuff like that. And in the wintertime, you know, all the elk congregate and that's where it's spread.
Oh, so then it's just like we see everywhere when you get a congregation
Yep.
of anything kind of together.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. So then this moose, clearly you survived.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it just went on its way.
yeah, I was happy
And
we were, you know, respecting each other's space. So
gotcha.
yeah.
Um,
And then we have a goshawk, or there's actually three in this nest. This
aw,
one's one of our active nests this year. It's a brand new nest that we were not aware of, but we found during our point counts. And I think they're adorable. They're kind of in their own special way.
yeah, like, so this looks, did you take this picture?
So actually one of my technicians took the picture because I couldn't exactly get a good photo because he kept bobbing up and down, and but when my technician was looking through the scope, he was able to snap a
So
picture.
that's how, so, because this looks like you are like, your face is in the nest,
Yeah.
but this was through a scope?
A scope, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
How high are they, do they have a preference for?
Yeah, so the ones in our forest, they like the upper third part of the tree.
Okay.
But this nest kind of baffled me because it was in the stand with totally dead trees in a dead tree with no cover. And usually they like cover, but you know, with wildlife,
And
sometimes they just have preferences that we don't see. So
another example of animals that don't read the book.
yeah, no, they don't like our boxes. They like the family.
So you said there's three in there,
Yep,
huh?
there's three of them, and all three of them fledged this year, so they successfully
Nice.
flew out of the nest. So
But this was not where you were surveying where you saw the moose.
no,
This was a different
this
area.
is near it, but just down the road.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
The nest, if we could just spend one more minute here on goshawks, because I'm still like relating them. Like around here, we seem to see coopers in the same area, but they seem to build new nests. These guys use the same nest?
So they will build new nests. Goshawks are also known to do alternate nest. So to kind of rotate, or they make like decoy nests too. Or they're just like, you know what, I don't feel like nesting in this nest this year. We're gonna build a new one, or we're gonna go to plan B, like nest over there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what's going on with the coopers.
Be
Do you
cool,
think
cool
they
to,
would-
well, but one thing you can do is monitor.
I can make a grid.
Yeah.
And can survey the neighborhood.
Yeah, get some folks together.
What's finding that? I mean, I'm it's so in awe of how you've got, thousands of acres that you go out and you survey for these different species. And I can't even figure out where the owl in my neighborhood is nesting. I hear it. And one year they were on the water tower. That was kind of a gimme. They'll be in a, well, and with owls, a lot of times they're using a nest that we've gotten used to seeing anyway. But this is so cool to see you tracking these guys down. All right, I think I'm gonna, this was the last picture, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
I'm gonna stop the screen share, and I just wanted to explore for just one more minute this topic that we have touched on a couple times of national forest versus national park. And I think I put it out when I did the little Facebook promo, and those of you who belong to King County Audubon, we had the speaker back in October that talked about there's a group of people in Southern Illinois who want to change the leadership of the Shawnee National Forest. They don't want it to be a national forest anymore. They want it to be a national park. Illinois doesn't have a national park. National parks have been called America's best idea, and these people are calling the Shawnee National Park Illinois' best idea. They're actually calling it a national park and climate preserve. So making helping it with carbon sequestration and by taking the Forest Service policies of cutting timber, taking that out of the equation, they hope to I guess preserve more of it and then encourage tourism in that area, which I don't know, I have a little bit of mixed feelings about, because one of the things I like about the Shawnee is that they don't, I mean, there's towns throughout. It's not like the Shawnee National Forest is just, this is the case with a lot of our national forests, they cover a lot of land, but there's pockets in there where people live. But I would hate to like see a line like you see at Yellowstone or a glacier on a summer day, people waiting to get in. But what are your feelings, Allison, on national park versus national forest?
Well, again, different departments. So if this does go through, it's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a lot of time because it's two different management.
So National Department of Interior is our Park Service, and then USDA, Department of Ag, is our overseeing our national forest.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the first things that came to my mind, and I don't know why, because it's not really a big deal, but the National Park Service, they have those ranger outfits that since national parks were created, they've been walking around with the ranger hat and the khakis and everything. Whereas you don't wear
we do wear uniforms just when we're doing public events, and our higher up folks like the rangers, the district rangers. So that's also something different. So ranger means two different things. For national parks, it's the people who are guiding tours and meeting you at the ticket window, entrance window, I should say. And then for us, some of our recreation folks do as well. But it's mostly like our administration folks who are like the front facing people, greeting visitors, but also our district rangers who are like the head of our district.
Yeah, just to kind of maintain tradition.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Okay. I guess. Yeah. Well, and then around here, like our Forest Preserve District has rangers, and that's yet another. Those are mostly maintenance positions. So there's lots of terms for that, or definitions of that term, ranger.
Yeah, different terminology. So
okay.
For different things, or similar terminology for different things.
Okay. So if someone were to say, okay, you know what, we want to start this movement, and knowing how our government things tend to take time, this sounds like something that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen
tomorrow.
overnight. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely going to take a lot of work and a lot of time, and yeah.
It is something, folks, if you want to do more research. I know they were working on a website. I don't remember the address offhand, but those of you who have been to the Shawnee downstate, you might want to read up a little bit on it, because there is a pretty dedicated group of individuals that want to see that change happen.
Yeah.
And I thought, who better to talk about but then somebody who actually works for one of these national agencies.
Yeah. And like with national parks too, there's usually an entrance fee. I know for the not as popular national parks, the fee's a little less than the ones that are pretty popular. For the ones that are pretty popular too, they're starting to do a timed entry.
Oh, so it doesn't get over taxed, or
exactly. And it prevents the log jams of traffic, and Rocky Mountain has a timed entry. Even though like a lot of these national parks are open 24 hours, but there is timed entry for Rocky Mountain that starts like at 5 o'clock in the morning and goes all the way until like 2 or 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is that people assigned, they're assigned a time,
Yeah,
or
so you have to go onto recreation.gov and reserve your spot. It's usually like the week before or something like that. You can do like the night before, but they go really quickly.
Mhm.
Like I've tried to get some Rocky Mountain tickets, but the best thing to do if you are going to Rocky Mountain is to get there before the entrance gate opens or
Yep.
like fee opens. The gate's still open, but the entrance fee window and go into the park before that opens. But that's like at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
But you get to see the sunrise, so
oh,
it's
yeah.
worth it.
Well, and just thinking back of different times I've traveled to national parks versus national forest. I remember, doggone, I'm not going to remember the name of the forest. It was out west. Let's say National Forest X out in the Northwest Territory. And the roads were a little rougher.
Yes,
They weren't paved.
yeah, so national parks, a lot of your fees go towards maintenance of road system and facilities.
So the
And
emphasis is on accessibility
Yes.
and education and
preservation
of people's access to these
Mhm.
national treasures.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
Forest Service is more of like remote kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Underdeveloped kind of thing. We don't have as many paved roads. We do have a lot of gravel roads. We do have a lot of roads that are old logging roads that are now like trails and that you can walk on. You can walk off trail. That's allowed. And
That's probably what I remember most, even though I can't remember the name of where I was. What I remember was that it was just really peaceful.
Mhm.
Whereas most of my national park experiences have been wonderful, but it's not been solo sort of adventure. There's
Right.
been
A lot of
people.
Yeah, a lot of times what I like to do is go to a national park, enjoy like the resource there, the history and what it's preserved, the landmarks, and then camp out on the national
And
forest.
national forest.
Yeah, because like we do have campsites in the national forest. They're a little bit more cheaper, but they are less developed, so they're not going to have like the electrical hookup or anything like that. They'll have water, they'll have pit toilets, but they're a little bit less cheaper. But
you're not gonna have the neighbor blowing up their air mattress, and
I mean, you still do. Like, you have hand
well,
generators
that's
now.
true. Yeah, there is. Yeah,
But yeah, you're not gonna
a
still
little
have
more primitive.
Mhm,
as
yes, that's
opposed
the word.
to-
And
okay.
there are still some fees for Forest Service, especially like trail passes, but that's usually covered with the America the Beautiful Pass. Same thing, America the Beautiful Pass does cover national parks, but we do have some like trail fees, like day passes and stuff like that, but they're like $5 opposed to like, the 25 or $45 for national parks.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
They're bargain too.
But either way that goes down in Shawnee, it is a very special place. I mean, it is the only national forest in Illinois too.
Mhm.
But it is an area that was designated to protect something or
True.
to protect can't speak to protect from development, from
Gotcha.
human development. So it is a special place.
Well, yeah, we'll keep our eyes on what's going on down
Yeah.
there. And Allison, I can't thank you enough for taking time
Yeah.
away from you're here to visit your family, but yet you came over to
Oh, they're-
spend an hour with our good-natured friends. We did have a couple of chats here. Let's just see if there's a question specific. All right. Yes, Kate, thanks for the Buffalo County. Oh, well, Wisconsin Public Radio covered it too. So yeah, anybody who wants to learn more about that event up there. And then Meredith always says the good question. Says, has there ever been a case where a national forest has become a national park?
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, not off the top of my head, I don't know.
And I know there's within the Department of the Interior, they have national monuments, and I don't know exactly how they get they decide if it's a park or not a monument, if it's to do with location or visitor
Yeah.
expectations or.
I know the St. Louis Arch
Arch?
was a monument and then was turned into a national
Mhm.
park. There's also national recreation areas, but I think that is also within the Department of Interior. Because I think national scenic areas are is still under the Department of Agriculture, because I think the I don't know, I'll have to research that, but somehow there's like, but I think one of them is still within the interior, and like Cuyahoga used to be a recreation area, but then was turned into a national park.
National park. Okay, so there is some history of them.
Of some things changing, but I think it's because it was still in the interior, but I don't know. I don't know.
It's easier to do because it was within the same department. Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't recall the group that's trying to enact this change in the Shawnee. I don't remember in any of their slides them talking about a previous, because that's what we do a lot here at the Park District. We always look for prior instances where something has happened, so then we can kind of start to generate a procedure or a policy based on how it's been done before. And I don't remember them saying anything about, well, when they changed this national forest to this national park. So I don't know that it ever has. Don't know for sure though, Meredith. We'd have to double check.
You've got to go into the internet resources.
That's right. Yeah. All right, well, you know what? We started a couple of minutes late and we're gonna wrap up a little bit late. Allison, I can't thank you enough for bringing your beautiful personality and sharing your beautiful photos with us. I know I want to plan a trip to Walden, Colorado.
Yeah, you're always welcome.
And
it's a beautiful
and a national forest too. Now that we understand a little bit more about the differences, I think I like them better. That's just me. Everybody, much appreciate your time this evening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, a blessed holiday. And we are, I was gonna say, see you next week. It's gonna be 2 weeks, but next week is an off week for Good Natured. So next time we gather, it will be December. Coming in on the end of the year. So thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pam and Allison. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.